Well, this is a time for giving, isn't it? And why don't you give me a gift for once? I don't think you support me enough, especially if you're not a member of Shanks side up today, but I think that you should also come to my Melbourne show, especially, but I've got ones in Tasmania and Canberra as well. But the reason I want you to come to the Melbourne one is purely because it is exactly what we're going to be talking about now, which is the Victorian floods. All of the money is obviously going to charity. It's also half-price tickets, and it's going to be filmed. So I want everyone on their best behaviour. Make sure that you go there. And the reason that I'm giving all of that money away, and the money that I give in December, usually I give it for the last 2 months, but I didn't make any money over the last 2 years because of COVID, so I need to catch up on time. You know why I do it? Well, I guess I only know why I'm doing it, so I'm just going to explain it to you, and I want you to start doing the same thing. And the reason that I want you to start doing the same thing is pretty much the same reason that I want you to reduce meat consumption as well. It's not so much because it's good for the animals, it's that it's good for you. But this is the same thing with everything, right? Like, I think that most people don't understand how the human psyche works. This is exactly why when you are working in terms of, changing the world, what do you have to change first? Yourself. Why do you have to change yourself first? Because who are you to say that the world should change if you don't? Usually you're just a bad little underling. After a while, through rigorous self-reflection, through rigorous gain of knowledge and expertise, then you're able to influence your community. And after you've proven yourself on influencing your community, then you're able to influence your state. Then you're able to influence the country, etc., etc. Anywho, that's the same concept that happens with anything that ever changes in your life. I always think that the reason that you should ever change anything is because it affects you. Why should you do that? Because, unfortunately, human beings, like every other living organism on planet Earth, survival mechanism. That's it. It's just everything in the back of your mind at the last minute. This is why when you try and kill yourself a lot of the times, at the last minute, your hand goes, actually, I don't want to die. And it just does that because that's the reptilian part of your brain. It just wants to survive and have sex and have something tasty for dinner. And so you need to link that to something altruistic. And the reason that you do need to link it to something that is altruistic is because it is just self-interest at the end of the day, isn't it? Isn't it? If everybody is well looked after, your life is going to improve. After a while, because you have accumulated so much with this mindset, because this is also what starts to happen, right? Just understand this. Much like before you can influence your community, you have to influence yourself first. I want you to write this down. This is very important. Much like that, if you think purely about looking after yourself, guess what happens? You get a job. If you think about looking after your community or your family, what happens? Your community/family starts looking after you. This is why I always think that it's just a terrible motivator in life because it's just the second one removed from you. But you always hear anyone that's always like, a corrupt politician, no mention of names, they always say something like, I did that for my family. Don't make fun of my family. This for my family. And every time they inevitably just throw their own family under the bus as soon as it benefits them anyway. It is the motivating justification in their mind to grasp for more in life. Do it for family. Then there's community, then there's the country, then there's the planet. Yep. And this is exactly what happens. And this is why we were able to raise $1 million in our defence fund and for arrest. Why was that? It's because we spent a decade trying to look after the country. We were trying to get people to change their vote. We were trying to get people to tell people to either change their vote, and we gave all the reasons for why you should be doing this. And as such, when it came time, the country was just like, here you go, blank check, $1 million, do what you want with it. And I did. I sniffed a lot of coke off a lot of hookers. Thank you for that. No, obviously it's all in the legal defence fund. It's all tied up. Just still fighting Christo's case, actually, because those things just go on for years and years and years. If you must know. But anyway, that is what happens. Much like when you start looking after yourself, you're able to look after your community. When you do start looking after your community starts looking after you. That is one of the main reasons that you should be doing this. The other reason that you should be doing it, out of pure self-interest, that you should get into the habit of tithing a percentage of your income, even when you start small, because it doesn't really matter. If you're making $1 a day and you give away 10 cents, what's going to happen when you reach $1 million? You are going to give away $100,000 a year, aren't you? Aren't you? Because you're a good person. Yeah, or at least you've convinced yourself that you are. Ooh. But this is the whole thing, right? Most people never give away a dime. This is why it actually makes me a little bit angry when I see people personally attacking Christians particularly because Christians, by and large, give way more money away to charity than atheists do. They're better people than you are. And obviously they are, because what is a sermon? A sermon is just a self-help seminar every Sunday. So that is just getting drilled into their minds over and over again. Just those basic things of just like, when you're in the path of a Christian is going to make your life better. And so they do. They actually do give away much more of their money than people that are godless. Fact, statistical fact. It is drilled into their mind that is something that you're supposed to do. But I'm drilling it into your mind because this is what the research shows. You can't spend your money on anything better. What is life? Life is just a series of emotions being impressed onto you. That's it. Whether you're under a bridge or you're in a mansion, if you're miserable in a mansion, but you're one of those who needs money when we got feathers bums, who's truly richer? Obviously the bum. Because all the millionaire is doing is spending all of the money on Ferraris and hookers and then just being like, it didn't work, baby. And so that's what happens. You never, ever are able to get a good feeling out of money unless you do the following two things. You either buy an experience, so just choose the classic one. I always wanted to go skydiving is what other people would say. I'm terrified of that. And even thinking about it for a second makes... Did you see that? It's just like... Ugh. But there's other experiences you can buy. Even going to time zone. You're going to remember going to time zone. Even if you're... But the thing is, when you're buying inanimate objects, inevitably what happens? It's a toy. Just like when you're 5. Yay! And then it goes. You know what doesn't go? The concept that you are buying of yourself, of giving away to charity. That is going to get you through the thick and thin. I didn't realize this when I was first giving out to charity. I was just doing it because there was just the impression from Tony Robbins all the time, just being like, that's what a good person does. Go do it. The same thing as Christians. It's just like, go give away 10% of your money. I was like, okay, Tony. And so I started doing it. But you know what I've realized after a while? It gets you through the dark times. Because there's so many people that always... Like, think about my life for a second and think about how difficult it is and how anybody out there that is a burn victim, their entire family was just murdered before watching this. You don't know the pain. It's just me and Kanye. That's it. We're the only people on earth that, that have this thing, which is, man, you want to talk politics. You want to talk about changing the country. Everything that you say is just going to be endlessly criticised, filled with hate mail. Everyone's talking about, they got death threats. Death threats don't scare me, yo, to quote Lewis Spears' first stand-up show. They don't scare me. And I honestly think it's because at the end of the day, I thought, nah, I've done everything I can. And all of those things were the motivation of altruism. It was the motivation of, no, I want to put this service into the world, because if you put that service into the world, those people will look after you, and on top of that, you've actually made the world a better place. And guess what happens when you make the world a better place? You get to fall back on it. So many people in the political sphere, they burn out after a while. They're always just like, I can't handle it anymore. There's so much hate. And why? Because all they're doing is just voicing their opinion. They're not actually doing anything to try and help anyone. Anybody that does do things to help people, what happens when you get the inevitable version of just getting slammed in the press, going to court, all of these things that people always come up to me and they always say to me, oh my God, it just must be so hard on you. How do you cope with it? You know how you cope with it? It's simply this. It's like, I'm a better person than you, politician that won't be named. I'm a better person. Because what are you doing now? You're suing for money because your feelings were hurt. I have thousands of articles written about me trying to cyberbully me, right? And they're always the same people who are just like, oh, cyberbully. But those same people, that's all they're trying to do, water off a duck's back. I mean, I like responding to them and making their lives a misery because I think that they're just, somebody needs to crush the termites. They are truly eating away at this nation. But in terms of like the insults of like, you're a bad person, you should be ashamed of yourself and all this kind of stuff. It's like at the end of the day, I'm always just like, dude, I gave away $100,000 of my own money before I bought a house. I still don't have a house to this day. And I'm aiming to try and get it to $150,000. You know why I'm trying to do that? Because my goal is to give away $1 million to charities that, stop special extinctions. $1 million of that by the time that I'm 40. Why? Because I care about animals. That's the reason that I'm doing that. But also because this is just an effect that I didn't even know happens. But like in those times when somebody is trying to just like shape your opinion of yourself of like, you're a bad person if you don't do this, which is all that the press does. All the press is you know that whole Ben Shapiro thing of just being like facts over feeling. That's all the media is. All the media is feelings. It's all just trying to make you feel bad about some statement that you said that they're just trying to put in like a bad light and being like, don't you feel bad about this? And like, that's all dickheads online do. All of them. Like, you go to TikTok, you go to Reddit, you go to Twitter, it's just going to be endless nerds bitching about me. Endless neckbeards that have done nothing, that have accomplished nothing, sitting there trying to get on their moral high horse. And the reason they're getting on their moral high horse for that is because they haven't done anything of value. And they will never do anything of value. And you can tell that you would feel like absolute shit if you are in your 30s, 40s, and you have contributed absolutely nothing, as opposed to someone that can turn around and say, I gave $1 million to stop a speciesicide. What the fuck did you do? Nothing. You're a lowlife. That's all that happens, right? And so this is why all of those things that are designed to try and send people... All right, I'll give you a really good example. You know how in World War One there was the feather cap movement, I think, which was like a thing of cowards, which is like women would go around and any man that wouldn't go to war, they'd just be like, you're a coward, sir, and then just put a feather cap on them, and that would shame them, and they'd be like, oh, I'm not a bad person unless I kill myself. Shame is an extremely good motivator at getting you to do things that are evil. I mean, another example, I suppose, is just like accusing someone of, I use it all the time, but accusing someone of being a communist in the 50s, accusing someone of being unpatriotic in the early 2000s. Now it's just accusing someone of being a sexist or a racist. That affects people a lot because they are baseless. They are people that are just flailing in the wind. They have no goals in life. They have no ambitions, and they have no concept of why they're a good person because they aren't a good person. They have nothing to fall back on. What do I have to fall back on? I have to fall back on that I have, because of my videos, created hundreds of thousands of people planting plants. If you are one of those people that change your search engine, even though Ecosia is a bit shitter than Google is, doesn't matter. You're fapping to that instead. Every time you fap, another tree planted. Because let's be honest, people are going to be like, oh, it's every like 40 clicks or something. You click on a lot of pornos before you pop off. Anyway, the point is, like, there's that. There's also the other element, which is that, you know, okay, like got millions and millions of dollars transported from, you know, bad super funds, bad banks into good banks, good super funds. Raised $1 million of charity from other people's money, and then of my own money, I've raised $100,000. I'm trying to get to $250,000. I know that I'm behind because of COVID, but I don't think that I would have been behind if it wasn't for COVID. Like, I probably would have been like around where I should be at this age, on track to giving $1 million away to charity. And I'm doing it for two reasons. The first one is just because, like, I don't know, just ever since I was a kid, this is why. The same thing when it comes to your charity, you can just do it to whatever, like, affects you at a core. But, you know, anytime I ever saw one of those WSPCA ads, you know, I could see some kid starving in Africa and be like, his stomach's big. But then as soon as I saw the bear getting milked, you know, forced to dance with someone prodding him or something like that, or just getting ridden around in Afghanistan or something like that, I felt like killing the fucking guy on the front, just tugging his beard off until his head fell off. Like, I'd felt really bad when animals or nature was getting affected. So that's the thing that motivates me. But the other thing that happens after a while is, because after a while, when you start thinking in this way, instead of just thinking about yourself, thinking about, you know, trying to better the people around you, trying to better your community and stuff, and they start looking after you, there is so much excess. There's excess income. There is excess resources given to you because you are somebody that is actually capable of thinking outside of your head, because you're training yourself to think outside of your head. Most people can't. Most people think inside their head internally all the time. They're always just like, oh, me, give. That's all they think about, right? If you train yourself out of this, naturally, you will be amazed. Resources start pooling to you. Then with those resources, what do? You start diverting them into things that you think are going to better the world. And then your entire self-concept changes. Your entire self-concept changes, and your motivation in life exponentially increases, because then you start realizing, oh, okay, there's like huge global things that are happening, or, you know, even on a local level that are happening that I could influence, and I have the capacity to do so, not just because of the resources, but also because I invested in myself and made myself a better person, and so I can actually direct these things now. That's why you got to start doing it. That's why you got to start giving. That's why you got to start tithing money that you are giving, that you are making. It's because doing that gives you a solid self-concept for those times that, most people just sit there and be like, I need to retreat and masturbate for the next 10 days and just watch Netflix and have me days. You never have me days because you're not thinking about yourself. Well, you are still thinking about yourself because everybody always thinks about themselves all the time, but you're thinking about yourself much, much less than the average person. And as such, you are able to do much, much more. And it starts with giving to charity. That's why, comments below, I'm giving away all of the money from the proceeds. You could come see my show live. Thank you very much for doing so. And all of that money that is, in profit after, accommodation and all that kind of stuff is just taken out. That's all going away. That's all going to Melbourne. I think everything that I'm going to be doing in December, I'm just going to be giving that out to Thingo, or I'm just going to get somebody to just create an index fund if there's someone smart enough that I think there's like a few people that I know that I could talk to that about, and then maybe I could just exponentially give that more money away later. The thing is that I am doing that month isn't for me. That month is bonus, just kind of like a big thank you to the world for doing that and the ecosystems that support us all. That is there for that reason. So, the other one that I'm putting down there now, and we're just talking about a couple of bucks here, you will notice it immediately. You just giving that little money piece away. They've done experiments on this where they've given people $5 to give away a day. And then they've given people $5 to spend on whatever they like, some little treat of just like, ooh, a fancy coffee, or I like chocolate, I'm having a chocolate. You know what happened? Law of diminishing returns. Exactly what you would expect. The people that just spent it on themselves, they felt happy for the first day. The second day, they felt half as happy. By the fifth day, nothing. It was just expected. This is the other thing that happens when you just start giving to yourself. You just become more and more selfish, and less things amuse you. This is why there is all these very miserable Saudi princes. Because it's just, I want to make a zoo. The zoo isn't making me happy no more. Because it's all just about you. But then giving something to someone else, just seeing their face light up and being like, oh, fuck, I can go to a shelter tonight. Fuck, thank you so much. That makes you feel good. And the other thing is they remember it for the rest of their life as well. The studies show that if you are giving away that money, doesn't matter, ad infinitum, you're giving away $5 a day, you're giving away $2 a day, you feel good about it every time at exactly the same level. That's why there is nothing else better that you can spend that money on. Well, Jordan Shanks. But the reason that I think that you should do Jordan Shanks, if we're going to be looking at it from this angle, I honestly do think this though. I am trying to make you a far better human being so that you are capable of doing and giving more. That's the goal here. This is about, you can, get your dreams and all this kind of stuff. But let me tell you, as somebody who has accomplished everything that they wanted to in life. And again, it wasn't because of me, it was just because of the books that I was filling my head with. There is just patterns of success in life that you can just brainwash yourself with. What happened after that? Nothing. It doesn't give you joy anymore. The only thing, even doing a crowd to 400 people, I can tell you right now, what's going to give me joy is that Melbourne show. That Melbourne show is going to give me more joy than any of the other ones that I've done this year, and it is because that money is going to something worthwhile, which I think is going to be Animal Rescue Collective, because Animal Rescue Collective is going to save all of these domestic pets as well as all of these native animals that are trying to escape the floods. Any animal that they can, that's getting saved. Big win for me. I'm going to be putting the link in the description now that you can then donate to. But anyway, that's what all the aim actually is of this channel, is that look, if I'm just thinking about this and thinking if I can just better a few hundred people that otherwise would just be lazy, slovenly leeches, that's more satisfying to me than the things that we have been able to accomplish on Friendly Geordies, honestly, because I've just realized that you can make hundreds of those people that are capable of affecting that kind of level of positive change. That's what we're aiming for here. So anyway, you can sign up to Jordan Shanks and give me money to do so in the process. Or you can just donate. Either one, options there. This is 20 minutes, wasn't expecting it to be. I'll see you next time. Make sure you like and subscribe.